So great to have you here at Cloudreach. I'd like to ask everyone to help me in welcoming Helen Beal. She is Chief Ambassador for the DevOps Institute. And Helen, you have a really impressive background, especially in the DevOps space, including recently being named Top DevOps Evangelist of the Year for 2020. So it would be great to hear about your career and how you got to where you are today.
Wow, so they're always a bit of a long story. I'll try and keep it short. I'm an accidental technologist, so I should probably start there. So I actually studied English literature and language at university. But I wasn't a stranger to computers. I'd had my first computer when I was 7. My father brought home a ZX81. He was a pilot, so he's quite technical himself. So we had that, and then we had a CPC 464. I'm really showing my age, but maybe some people in the audience had them as well. And we would do a bit of coding at home. You know, you'd make it say hello there over and over and things. And I also worked in a cattery. So if people don't understand what that is, it's where you put your cat, where you go on holiday. I loved cats. I wanted a cat. My mum said I could have one if I went and got to know cats better. And I bring that up because one of the jobs that I did there is I actually built them a CRM system in Microsoft Access because we were using cards and it was awful. So I was no stranger to computers. I did a module on my English degree that was English and computing. This was 92 to 95. So we learned about this amazing new thing called HTML. And we did some natural language parsing as well. So we looked at texts and analysed them to see whether we thought they were written by Shakespeare or Bacon and people like that. So looking at the kind of idiolect, as we call it. So we each have an individual kind of vocabulary that we use. I temped all through university, often ended up in technology firms. As admins, normally I finished university, got my degree, didn't know what to do with it. I'd been and done an internship at Elle magazine because I was quite into that, but they didn't really do any writing in-house. I'd spoken to a journalist in a pub that I also worked at, and he told me that I'd need to sell my grandmother if I wanted to be a journalist. So I wasn't into that. I'd explored the publishing industry, and that I heard was a bit of an old boys network. So wasn't so keen on that either. I really wanted to write, but I was only 21 and felt that I really probably needed some life experience. So I thought, okay, I'm going to see where the wind blows me. And first of all, it blew me to US robotics, and they were lining up a job for me. They were going to give me, it was a permanent job, but they were going to rotate me through 3 roles. So support, marketing and sales, to give me some different flavors of things. But while I was waiting for that headcount to be approved, I went and did 2 weeks temping at Lotus that had just been bought by IBM. And I thought rack-mounted modems versus Lotus Notes. And I know Lotus Notes, some people like me absolutely love it, and lots of people have had really bad experiences from it. But I love Lotus Notes. So that's how I started out, really. It was very accidental, but it's now 25 years later, and it's been thrilling. It's such a fast-moving industry. There's so much to learn all of the time. That's it in a nutshell.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and it really plays on the conversation that we just had with Carol, which is that, you know, such diverse backgrounds leading to careers in tech. It's amazing how transferable and so how random some of these journeys can sound, but actually it just shows that there are so many roots into the industry. But to sort of get into more about the sort of International Women's Day and month, well, what do you think are some of the sort of issues around the culture of the industry and the issues that we're facing with that? What are your thoughts?
It's kind of endemic, isn't it? There's boys' jobs and there's girls' jobs, and there aren't really, but it's kind of what we're brought up to believe. And I really enjoyed seeing that chat message from one of the team about getting Carol into a school, because this is the problem. It is at that level. No one really talked to me at school about computing, certainly not sales in the technology industry as a possible career path. It just wasn't talked about. I'm not a parent, I am an auntie, and I do have a couple of nieces, and my brother tries to encourage me to talk to Daisy about my career, because it is really fun and it's really rewarding on many levels. You know, we're one of the best paid industries. There's a level of financial security that I wouldn't have got if I'd gone and been a researcher in biology, which was another thing that I considered at some point. So it's kind of trying to sell our job and our career to the girls is actually really hard, because it just doesn't look exciting what we're doing. It's like we don't really look like the kind of, and I say model, I don't mean fashion model. It's like it doesn't look very appealing. When you talk to Daisy about what she's interested in doing, it's like being a dancer, looking at Instagram influencers. It's they're very kind of social media oriented. So I think we've got quite a job to try and feed into our industry. And we're not doing that very well. When I started at IBM 25 years ago, I got there and thought, there's not very many women. I thought, well, that'll probably change and we'll see more women. In all honesty, I think we've seen less women coming into the industry. DevOps in particular as a niche, if you look at demographics of things like the state of DevOps reports, we're looking at less than 10% of respondents are female. So it's a real problem for sure.
What do you think are the biggest hurdles that are, I mean, actually launched DevOps as a service, and so it's very timely to have you the chief evangelist. What do you think are some of the biggest hurdles for women in the DevOps space?
That's a tough question. Yeah, I think it probably is the D&I, the diversity and inclusion. I think there, and you know, loads of companies are waking up to this, of course, and I imagine Cloudreach are really good at this, but a lot of the enterprises are starting to talk about it more and realizing that we do have natural biases and we don't know what they are. Oftentimes we don't recognize them in ourselves, and we do hire people that are like us without realizing that we're doing it. I remember my very first permanent job at IBM actually was with a chap called Terry Burt, who's one of my favourite bosses ever. And he just had me moving from a temporary admin role into a permanent admin role, and then he was putting me on his team as an inside salesperson. And because of that mix, he asked me to help him do the hiring of the whole team, and we hired a whole brand new team of people. Basically, the Lotus has only had a corporate sales, external sales team at that point, so they were building a brand new inside sales team to take up some of the accounts that weren't really being properly looked after. And when Terry put all these people in front of me and all these CVs, I was like, I really don't get that person, and that person doesn't seem right to me. And he hired about 10 people, and it was the most diverse team that I've ever worked on. The people were all so different from each other, and it worked so well. And I always felt like there was somebody in the team that would work for every customer, because we're all different people, right? And you do build relationships with different people in different ways.
Oh, I think that's so key. Yeah. And I think you've just answered my next question, which is what could a company like Cloudreach be doing better? But I think that focus on D&I is a great one. Any other sort of suggestions in terms of what companies should be looking at, to promote gender equality?
Well, you said the equality word, and I think it's again so endemic in us that somehow women are of less value than men. And I know people are trying to address it all the time, but we can see that it's still a problem. We know that people are not being paid the same. We know there is evidence from the pandemic that it's more women proportionally have been furloughed than men. Women have suffered financially more in this crisis than our male counterparts. And Carol was talking about parenthood and motherhood and things like that, and it's like a double whammy. There's this kind of assumption that I don't know whether it's that the man should be paid more because he's the breadwinner and he's keeping his family secure, but most women work now, and many women are parents, and they do the bulk of that work. And apologies to any males on the call that are doing their fair share of childcare, but as Carol said, even the schooling is often falling onto the female's hands. So getting that pay right, helping women with flexible working to help them manage the other pressures that they have, particularly when children are younger and children are out of school, I think it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And this sort of dovetails perfectly into the next topic I was going to talk to you about, which is allyship, which is a big theme of this year. And you've sort of cited a couple of examples. What kind of a role has that played in your career? And, what do you think is, the responsibility of the broader population in terms of allyship?
So you introduced me as the Chief Ambassador at DevOps Institute. I'm actually an independent contractor. I have a number of different roles. So I'm Chief Ambassador at DevOps Institute. I'm chair of the Value Stream Management Consortium that we launched a couple of weeks ago. I provide strategic advisory services to 2 vendors in the marketplace. So Moogsoft is one, they're an AI ops vendor, and the other is Plutora, who are a Value Stream Management vendor. And when I think about Allyship, I think about the communities I work with in all of these different roles. And prior to today and Women's Day, I was thinking about the different profiles of the different organisations I interact with from a diversity perspective. And I think we'll start with DevOps Institute because it's very interesting. We actually have a female CEO, Jane Grohl, and she is amazing at allyship and amazing at, she's built a team around her and it is diverse. I would say it's probably leaning on the females, more female than male, but we do have lots of men working with us as well. And then as an ambassador, or as chief ambassador, we've built an ambassador community of about 200 ambassadors. And they are, because it's DevOps, they are mainly men, but we have got a good representation and probably a higher representation than the market in general of females. And they are really good at making friends with each other and helping, this kind of idea of making allies and helping, this, we use this phrase such a lot actually in DevOps, a rising tide raises all boats. So you all help each other, and the ambassador community is completely voluntary in it. So apart from me, no one gets paid to be an ambassador directly. So it's all about the DevOps culture of sharing and the DevOps culture of being supportive and helping others with best practice. And yeah, I think everyone should recognize that community is about giving, and when you give, you end up receiving. I think we're often brought up just to try and take what we think we deserve, but I think what I've discovered, and what I'm seeing more people discover, is the more you give, so the more you share with other people, the more you make friends with other people and you create relationships where you're helping each other, the more you will benefit together.
100%. And absolutely, I should have spent a little bit more time at the beginning talking about all of the varied roles that you have, because if I look on your LinkedIn headline, it's herder of humans, DevOps and ways of working coach, value stream mapping, and management practitioner. So that's a lot.
Well, I get bored easily.
Can you unpack some of that for us? Herder of humans?
The herder of humans is very much about my chief ambassador role. So these 200 ambassadors we have, they're all pioneers of DevOps. We don't have one from Cloudreach, by the way. I'll just put that out there. If you would like an ambassador, you know where I am. And 200 people, and they're across the whole globe. It's been really amazing to watch the community grow. It's been incredible to break into new geographies like Africa, which was a continent we didn't have any representation in at all prior to me picking up the role from my colleague Diraj about a year ago. So that's been a new continent. And what we try and do is serve our community. So DevOps Institute is a professional membership association. So we're all about advancing the humans of DevOps and helping them learn. So Tim in your audience has got some experience. He's done some of the certs through the training work that we do. So we have courses. But the ambassadors do lots of things. So yesterday, for example, we had a skill up day. We have monthly skill up days. So yesterday's was on Value Stream Management, and we had a number of ambassadors, including myself, talking about our experiences and thoughts on the topic. We do crowd chats. They help us do courseware updates. We just, again, sorry if this sounds like a promotion of DevOps Institute. Yesterday, we also launched, actually on Wednesday, we launched a new online DevOps assessment platform called ADOC, the Assessment of DevOps Capability, which has been crowdsourced by the ambassadors. We had, every time we want to do something, we ask all 200 if they want to do it. I'm very inclusive like that. I try not to have little fragments and subsets, and 40 people put their hands up. So they're all people with like loads of practitioner experience. We reckon about 600 years of practitioner experience that all came together and helped us build this assessment platform. So that's what I mean by herder of humans.
Fantastic.
As I said, I started in sales. A few years ago, I joined some old colleagues of mine in a small company and started up a DevOps company. And initially, I thought it was going to sell software. And then speaking to our clients, they really wanted help with culture and things like that. So I rebuilt our services portfolio. And when I was selling it, I kept on having customers saying, but can you come and do the work? So I ended up going to Switzerland to do the first DevOps Foundation course, one of the first ones in the world from DevOps Institute, and it was the first time I'd ever trained anybody. I went to Billund in Denmark to do an assessment at Lego because they wanted me there, and it was incredibly flattering because I'd really firmly put myself in the salesperson and the sales manager director box, and suddenly I became a consultant. So I spent a number of years doing DevOps coaching and consulting in lots of different companies. Lloyd's Banking Group. I spent several years assessing their DevOps journey. I spent a lot of time with Deutsche Telekom. I spent a lot of time in Saudi Arabia, which is another interesting conversation from a diversity.
That's a whole other conversation, isn't it?
Yeah. And then last year, I decided to spend some more time with my great ally, Jane, by becoming her chief ambassador. I've been doing some product owner work with her for a while before that. And then kind of things happened with Plutora, and Plutora led to us building the Value Stream Management Consortium. And to explain that link, since you asked me to unpack it all, did a lot of value stream mapping with my clients as part of the DevOps coaching. It's really, really helpful to accelerate a DevOps journey. But I had some frustrations with it. I had some frustrations about people's ability to regularly go back and inspect and adapt according to what they'd learned. I had problems with not being able to get the right metrics for teams and not being able to really help them get to the metrics when they wanted them. And then 2019, I was at DevOps Enterprise Summit in London. I was actually on an InfoQ press pass, another hat I wear is I'm a DevOps editor at InfoQ. And I was interviewing a number of value stream management companies, and that was a complete epiphany for me. Value stream management basically allows us to connect the entire end-to-end DevOps tool chain so that we can fully understand the flow of value and the realization of value as it flows round and round our value streams. So it really helps us with the inspection and adaptation problem, and it really helps us be very fluid and being able to be very kind of evolutionary about how we use the metrics and how we help teams to self-discover. So value stream management is a huge passion of mine, hence the setting up of the consortium.
Great. Oh, fantastic. That sounds really neat. I'm going to put offer out as the last chat and invite employees to put any questions in the chat. But you know, maybe while we do that, you can tell us about what your sort of year ahead is looking like, you know, as we sort of hopefully emerge out of COVID. What are your plans for the sort of near and short-term future?
So I guess I've just done two really big launches. So we've done the launch of ADOC, the Assessment DevOps Capability, and the launch of the Value Stream Management Consortium. So really it's going to be about executing on both those opportunities in the short term. Really hopeful that ADOC will really give lots of value to organisations on a DevOps journey, help them be able to accelerate what they're doing. Similarly, with the Value Stream Management Consortium, hoping that we manage to create lots of guidance and learning and patterns and things that people can benefit from as they embark on this journey in what's effectively an emerging market. We did launch some research the day that we launched as well on March the 3rd, which is the first State of Value Stream Management report, basically, annual report. So going to be pretty busy with that, I guess, for the next 3 or 6 months. I think top of my agenda really is trying to get to a beach. You know, I love traveling. I traveled so much in 2019 that actually the pandemic's been nice for me to spend time at home. We got some kittens, so they've kept us sane during the horrible British winter. I was born in the wrong country. I don't really like the winter, and normally I'd get away to like Thailand or Costa Rica or something, and obviously that's just not been possible. So we're hoping lockdown's going to roll out all right, but top of the, so Jack agrees with me, beach and pub, absolutely, a beer garden, me with a white wine spritzer, would be lovely, yeah.
Excellent. Oh, fantastic. Well, with that, I think, let me just see. Well, I'm sure I will make sure that everyone gets your LinkedIn details. And it was so great to hear from you and all of the exciting projects that you have on the go. Thanks so much.
Lovely to chat. Thank you.
Great. And with that, I think I will pass to, I pass to Tara, don't I? Thank you so much, Helen.
Thank you.